Cubs and Cardinals fans, it's Thursday, June 14th. One team went 4-5 against three last-place teams. The other dropped a winnable series against the first-place Milwaukee Brewers. All of this just as the two are prepared to square off at Busch Stadium this weekend. Join the despair as the Team of Rivals podcast starts now.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. So crazy, folks. So crazy. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. Playing a high drive into left. Back goes to Craig. He's at the track. He has it. And the world champion for 2011. A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it toward Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron Nuttall and Peter Geddes.
All right, everybody, welcome back to this week's show. It's June 14th, as my friend stated on the intro, and this has been a Cardinal fans, not nightmare, I'm not irate. I think this was heading into these last 9 games that the Redbirds played in. I was more fearful that they would come out of this with a sub-500 record against the last place teams, and that is certainly what happened. Before we tear all of that to shreds and everything else that's going on in St. Louis and Chicago baseball, who forgot how to score over the last 18 plus innings. We're missing somebody tonight.
Just 18.
Is it just 18?
We have because they scored, what was it, 5 runs.
Well, I'm really glad we didn't change our intro coming in, because it is only me and you right now, because Elliot is MIA. I just got a text from him, actually. He's I'll have to join in session. Like this is a such a formal.
We're just going to have to end it with, Elliot, I'm sorry, your hour's up.
But yeah, so that's been for Cardinals Nation, my God, it's for some, it's just end of the world. For others, we're like, I was worried that this was going to happen, but we can get into that a little bit later. But so how was baseball aside for a second, Pete? I haven't talked for a week. I hope everything's fine up there in Chicago.
There's a little bit of despair in the air, as I alluded to in the intro. And although this last series seems to have divided Cubs Nation, there are the Pollyannas who say, "Oh, this is no big deal." Milwaukee's pitchers threw really good games, and then there are the others who are, kind of sounding like Cardinals fans. This offense is too inconsistent. Really second guessing Joe Maddon's decisions, especially the fact that they were only down 1-0 in yesterday's game. Had Chris Bryant on the bench, and Joe Maddon let Chris Jimenez hit in the 9th inning rather than pinch hitting his struggling third baseman. But I mean, come on. You take Chris Bryant every day, because a Chris Bryant single is better than a Chris Jimenez strikeout.
Well, and it's also a time to maybe, you've given him some bench time sometimes to sit down, kind of clear his head. But you think an event like that might jumpstart a guy. So that seemed like it would be the ideal time. I'm surprised to hear that, man. I didn't know about that. But I'm not. Me, I'm not on Twitter as much, so I don't catch this kind of thing, and it's certainly not something.
I was listening to the game as it was, I was watching the game as it was happening. So
okay,
it was frustrating. And this after Joe played one of his games again in the 8th inning, where he brought in Brian Dunsing to face one batter, then sent Dunsing out to left field and brought in Steve Cishek. Cishek faced the batter, sent Dunsing back in, sent Cishek out to left. Dunsing came out, and then. I forget who came in, but I mean, he had 3 different left fielders in that inning, or maybe it was 4, and all of them were pitchers. Well, except Wilson Contreras. He brought in Wilson Contreras.
So in other words, he went out of his way to make sure he burnt through as many bench players and bullpen arms as he possibly could,
except for Chris Bryant.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, normally I would laugh at that, but I'm like, that is how do you defend it?
Yeah, and he tried to, and his explanation was just it was pretty darn poor.
Isn't it funny the way this happens to managers, right? I mean, Dusty Baker's year, he took over in Chicago. Of course, they had, they went all the way to Game 7 of the NLCS, and a lot of people loved him in that town. I mean, maybe I'm not speaking for you, but a lot of the Cubs fans loved him because a lot of them at the time didn't really know any better. And then how that turns, like within a year or two, to where, guys, this is a godsend to what the hell are you doing? Like quickly.
Right.
We've certainly experienced the same thing. So I'm not excluding what's happened to the Cardinals and their manager.
Well, and this, the second guessing of, we discussed it at the very beginning of this podcast over a year and a half ago. The second guessing of Joe Maddon started about 5 minutes after they won the World Series. Because people were second guessing his bullpen decisions in Game 5 and in Game 6. But then in Game 7, they certainly managed to pull it out, obviously. And there was a little bit of a rift in Cubs Nation immediately after that, because there were some people who were ripping his bullpen decisions and others saying, how about we enjoy this World Series that we just won before we really go ballistic? But I think
there's some that can't do it.
Yeah.
There are some that just can't do
it. That frustration is catching up with people, because it's decisions like this that are baffling, and you wonder. And I think it extends further, because I think people are really nervous about what's going to happen when Yu Darvish comes back after the All-Star break. Are you really going to send Monty back to the bullpen when he has been pitching so well and still continue to roll Tyler Chatwood out there? I mean, at some point, you have to sit Chatwood down and say, look, you're going down to the minors and you're going to figure this out, because we cannot afford to give away a game every 5 days.
Yeah. And many teams around baseball, and certainly the Cardinals, have faced the same thing, to where, you heard my frustration earlier in the year when Jack Flaherty once again found his way back down into the minor leagues after pitching well, because Adam Wainwright was coming off the DL or somebody else, and there was just no room for him. But at some point in time, you had to call it. Now, if Wainwright hadn't have been hurt, if he kept running him out there every 5 days, throwing 60-mile-an-hour fastballs, who knows what would have happened? But no other base. I mean, this is the kind of thing that, it's a tough call. You invested in somebody, and you want to bring him in. You want to give him a shot. You don't want to give up on him too early. But then again, you reach a point in the season where we can't afford to do this anymore. That we have to do what's best for the team, and they have to make those tough calls. So. If this young guy's, if they're better off throwing him out there every 5 days, eventually that decision is going to have to be made. It's not going to be Joe's decision. It's going to be Jed Hoyer, Theo, or a combination of the two. So it'll get settled. I think for us Cardinal fans, that's a little bit harder to predict, only because of the history. Chatwood doesn't have a history with Chicago. But a guy like Adam Wainwright or somebody else, that's a different story. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen there. But I can guarantee you this: Jack Flaherty's not going to be back down in Memphis. I'm not going to say ever, but he's not going to be back down in Memphis anytime soon. That's for sure. He's up there to stay. Some other guys could be questionable if they want to give other pitchers in the organization a shot. I'm looking to guys like Luke Weaver. Like, okay, man, he hasn't been pitching terrible, right? He certainly hasn't pitched his way out of the rotation. But he hasn't been as sharp as he was early on.
But despite that, he's still more effective than Adam Wainwright was there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, Wainwright's got to pitch lights out in order to get back into that
Jed
rotation.
Jerko has been more effective than Adam Wainwright on the mound. I hate to say that. I don't mean that. I'm trying to joke, trying to make. Hopefully, Adam would laugh at something like that. I'm just kidding. But we love the guy. Love the guy. And I certainly don't want to come off that way, but that's going to play itself out later in the year. We don't have to worry about that anytime soon. And we went over the injury with Alex Reyes last year and how they're still feeling that, but or not last year, this year too. But so the Cardinals definitely have some questions in their pitching, but their starting rotation hasn't been their weakness. It's actually been a source of strength for them through one major surprise in Miles Mikolas. Now he he ended up on the wrong end of the decision yesterday, but still, yeah, I don't think you can argue that he has been the most effective pitcher on their staff up to this point. No question. Most consistent. And wouldn't it be, if it doesn't taper off, if he kind of stays throwing how he is, I see him as one of the of course you can't vote pitchers in, but I don't see how they keep him out of the All-Star game. He could be the lone representative up to this. Yeah. The Cardinals aren't going to have
Yadi's not going to represent. I mean, based on the first round of voting, Yadi is not going to be voted in.
No, he won't be voted in by the fans. And you know what? The injury to him, he was out for an extended period of time. That probably didn't help, but it doesn't mean he would have been voted in anyway. Who's leading that? Is it
Buster Posey?
Posey? No shit. Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised. Eventually, be one of the Padres Rule 5 picks they got from the Cardinal system. To get into that.
Who do you hate more, the Padres for their Rule 5 picks from the Cardinal system, or the St. Louis North Cardinals located in Toronto?
I don't hate the Blue Jays at all.
Yeah, but I don't. Gilman. They picked him up right after he got released.
Right. Well, right. No. Hey, look, if the Cardinals release somebody, fair game, right? If they don't protect them, that's a different story. So I no, without question, hate the Padres.
Well, your team should protect these guys.
Yeah, but who? Okay, so you can only protect 40, right? So when you have guys that have not played above low A,
right?
Like you wouldn't think that, or maybe they just eked into double A. You're like, I don't know who's going to, because when you select them right, they have to remain on your major league roster for a year.
Correct.
Now, a team like the Padres, who were just shitbags for the last couple of years and knew they weren't going anywhere, could afford to do that. Other teams that might think they have a chance to contend would never touch that. Something will happen at some point in time, Pete. Well, they will not protect somebody that they think nobody will go after. And I hope Mo's just vindictive enough, and because I don't doubt he has a good memory, but I hope they just throw a rock right through one of their windows and select somebody that's just going to irritate them just enough.
Well, credit to the Padres. Obviously, they're scouting your system heavily because they keep picking people up from you. I mean, Wilson Contreras famously 4 or 5 years ago was not protected. And and he made it through an entire year completely unprotected because he was new to the catching position. I understand that, but he was right there. Anybody could have picked him up during the Rule 5 draft.
Be interesting to go through a history of who had been available at points in time in their minor league career. Like looking at it was a guy like JD Martinez ever on not protected, or somebody like that. It was a little bit later, more of a late bloomer that was exposed. So that'd be an interesting thing to dig up, but we're not going to do that tonight.
No,
I'm going to start off with the Cardinals faced. Well, they had a 9-game, not road trip, not home trip, but a nine games consecutive, not on consecutive days, but 9 days consecutive of facing nothing but last place teams in each division of the National League, and netted a 4-5 record.
It's not good.
Well, there's some that are going to be surprised that they ended up like this. Me going into it, well, those teams are going to throw just enough pitchers that the Cardinals have never seen, nor has anybody on earth ever heard of, other than those players' parents, and that will be enough to 5-4, right? Like they're going to end up 5-4.
Minimum, right?
No. Well, no. When you're facing all the teams at the bottom of their division in the National League, you come out of that at a minimum 6-3.
Yeah, but I mean, going into it, you have to think worst case, right? Absolute worst case. The bullpen blows up. We're still coming out of there 5-4.
No, I thought the worst case would be something like 4-5. Oh. Yeah, no, I'm serious. Because. And by the way, I said this on the podcast I just recorded. You'll hear me. I said that my fear was that they would end up with a record like this coming out of there, where they would have failed to take advantage of who they were facing. Not that was going to thrust them into first place, but that it was going to keep them steadily within that mix at the top of the National League Central within a game or two. My concern was, I'm like, oh shit, they're probably going to come out of this thing 6-3 is really what their goal should have been. 5-4 would have been nice. 4-5 just sucks. Of course, they could have ended up worse than that, but the Reds got involved, so it was a guaranteed at least 2 wins. Their schedule is going to be much tougher over the next 4 series.
Yeah.
So this is just where they're at now, and they're going to be tested. And I want to get into it a little bit later. Don't want to get into it right now. The Cardinals are missing their best bat for this Cubs series. I'm sure you guys are liking that.
You mean their theoretical best bat or their best performer so far?
No, well, okay, fine. There might be a more appropriate way to say it. Their best performer so far, but he over the series though, he has hit the ball great. He's been. I mean, if not for him, they might plate 7 runs over those 9 games.
And I have to say, he's missing it for the right reason.
Oh, absolutely. No argument.
Obviously, the Cardinals fans who listen to us know why, but for the Cubs fans who aren't familiar, Martinez will be missing the series because he's flying home to Jose Martinez will be missing the series because he's flying home to Venezuela, correct?
I think so, yeah. For
the birth of his child. And also to see his son, who he hasn't seen in however long because he can't get a visa. So,
yeah.
Absolutely the right reasons to go home.
No, nobody's arguing that. And said it a little bit earlier tonight too. Is like, family's more important. Life happens. That's more important. This is just a game at the end of the day. But could he have not waited another week to, his wife and everything? Could they not have waited one more week, looking at the schedule ahead and saying, boy, we can't really do this tonight.
3 days.
Can we wait just a few more days till we could time it to after the Cubs series? Before we have this baby, that would have been better. Well, ideally, you would have done it a week prior, where they were playing all these shitbag teams, but they ended up getting beat anyway.
You would have gone 2-7. So,
most likely.
To say that at the depths of my despair after the Cubs dropped the game on Wednesday night or Wednesday afternoon, I at least was able to fall back on the even further depths of Cardinals fans as they wrapped up a 4-5 swing through the last place, the bottom feeders of the National League.
Yeah. The Facebook.
But before we go on,
animated.
Keep sniffing in order to get the camera to
he's
switch.
Trying to get. I know.
We should welcome into the show the Earl of Sandwich with some new with the new backdrop. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going good. Can you guys hear me? I've got a little bit different setup. I had to quickly get my gear in order. So,
are you wearing a pink Millennium Falcon t-shirt?
No, it's red.
I think it's red. I think you just washed it a few too many times.
Yes, this is a multiple washed Millennium Falcon t-shirt.
It's pink.
Excellent.
It's probably pink now. Yes.
He bought it at Target and it was red, and it's become pink.
You are correct.
After the first washing.
Right. Yep. I coming to you straight from Sandwich, Illinois. So
excellent. So Elliot, we've been talking.
Well, what?
Just disregard it.
I didn't even hear it because you both
made a sandwich joke. It wasn't funny.
It was hilarious. Go on, Ron. You were about to introduce.
I don't know what. So, Elliot, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Hey, no problem.
But listen, we only have an hour for this session, so you're going to have to get to the point.
Yeah.
Join you in session.
That's right. Yeah, you made it sound like we have a formal way of entering the show here. I'm gonna have to join you in session. There'll be a light flashing Elliot's entrance. Please play the intro.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a later night than I thought we were going to. Reason I am late for everybody is I have my dad owns a family business. He is out for surgery. I came home to help cover. So we ran a little late tonight.
Acting president? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I am the acting president, CEO of Dewey Shoes and Sportswear.
Nice. Hey, unlike Zazzle, do you think you could print off some Cardinals Nation's 24/7 shirts? The crew, unlike those son of a bitches there. We're about to pull our business from you, by the way.
Actually,
me and Peter are not going to spend another dime.
Actually, with the new logo, yes, I can. If you send me a PNG file or a vector file, we can get those done.
All right, we discussed those details off. I'm sure nobody on the broadcast wants to know about my struggles.
So what were we talking about? What I missed, boys?
All right, so we were talking about, first of all, we were going through, the Cardinals faced the cellar dwellers in each division of the National League and ended up netting 4-5 record, which was not what they needed to do given the competition that they're going to be facing over the next, I think, 4 or 5 series. I mean, it's not going to get any easier for them, starting with the Cubs tomorrow. But and then we transition quickly on to Jose Martinez. The Cardinals are going to be missing their best performing bat this year. Pete corrected me, by the way. They're going to be missing their best performing bat up to this point in the year, which really sucks, but it's for the right reasons. And nobody disputes that, but it's just like, damn it, Jose, could you not have done this a week early?
Yeah.
Could you not have done what you did a week earlier?
They can schedule those C-sections. They could.
I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about, the whole.
Oh,
yeah. Come on, Jose. I mean, you got to look at the schedule ahead of time, plan that stuff out. But anyway, nobody was there. Just kidding. But it does suck not having the best performing bat.
Oh, absolutely. He's a big presence in your lineup that's not going to be there with the struggles that the other guys in the middle of that lineup have had this year.
Middle Tommy from top to bottom. He's hit a wall.
He is. I mean, talk about a precipitous decline. My goodness.
Yeah.
He's about to sink into Dexter Fowler territory. If he
that's going to be hard, and that's something that I do want to talk about in a bit, guys. So let's save Dex. Yeah. Let's save Dex here for a little bit because that is one that there's been a lot of, I don't know, I want to say just a lot of anger and hatred shown towards him, and I don't feel that way. I feel that, well, no, I don't want to go there yet. I want to stay where we're at now about the Cardinals offense, which I have been like bitching about, Pete, for over a year. Since we started recording this very first episode, You've been
complaining about a number 4 bat.
I mean, just a solid middle core of the order that they have just failed and put faith in people to somehow manage to fit that role and just to work out somehow. And it's not working out. It's been going on since, really, you can argue, since 2013, since Carlos Beltran exited the team. And I know he was batting second in his final year with St. Louis. But you could argue that they have not had a threatening lineup since 2013.
Which actually, it's funny that you bring that up. So I was thinking about this, and it popped into my head today because obviously there's been a lot of chatter about firing Mike Matheny, but even before that, firing John Mabry.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Yep.
Yeah, and that got me thinking, how much of it, and I don't know the answer to this, how much of it is the coaching and how much of it is maybe inaccurate assessments of the players on this team? Maybe Tommy Pham isn't that good a hitter. Maybe Marcell Ozuna isn't that good a hitter. Maybe all of these guys who we've been told are these phenomenal hitters really aren't that good. And an artist can, and I'm certainly not calling John Mabry an artist, but an artist is only going to be able to create art out of the medium that he's provided with. And if he's working in marble, it's certainly going to be different than if he's working in clay.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, Pete. I mean, this is stuff that we as fans think about all the time. I mean, it's not that we wake up every morning or go to bed every night going, gosh, who do I blame that makes me feel better and it makes me feel right about who I blame, and so I can rationalize this before I go to sleep. I was going to go to Dex later, but I want to go to him right now because, he had a great 2 years when he was with the Cubs. Yep. You look at the rest of his career, it's been like, right? Dex is just, I think he's one of those guys that he fits among a certain set lineup. He's a piece that all the other ones around him have to function in a certain way, and he can fill a very specific role, and he can thrive there.
He's a complementary piece. He is
not a centerpiece.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And by the way, I throw Matt Carpenter in that exact same boat. Yeah. Exact same boat. He is not a core. He is not a pillar. He has to.
What that lineup could be if Dex and Matt Carpenter, in whatever order you want to put them, could bat 1 and 2, and they didn't have to worry about driving in runs. All they had to do was come around. And I think that it's evidenced. And I read something about it. I can't remember who it was, but somebody posted on Twitter, did an analysis of. It appears that Dex is sold out for the launch angle revolution, and the problem is he doesn't have enough power.
Yeah, no, I saw that too.
To benefit from it. he didn't need to be that guy when he was playing with the Cubs. He just needed
No,
to get on base.
right.
That was it. And if he ran into a home, as evidenced by the fact that he had his career high in home runs last year with the Cardinals, not during his 2 years with the Cubs. If all he felt that, and if all he needs to do is get on base, well, then he doesn't have to try and generate, massive contact and hit home runs and, long doubles and worry about driving runners in. As Joe Madden said, you go, we go. All Dex needed to do was get on base.
I don't remember. I'm sorry, but I don't remember the exact writers' names. I believe it was somebody from the Birds on the Black.
Yeah, pretty sure it was
that did this analysis. I don't want to. The name's escaping me right now, and I'm sorry. But Pete's talking about your story. But I think it's a combination of things, Pete. One, Dex does not have guys like Chris Bryant batting behind him like he did in Chicago. I said this a year ago, so it's nothing new. And this is Dex's first big contract, and he's trying to live up to it last year, and the wheels have just fallen off this year. And so he's got an immense amount of pressure on him, and now he's watching a rookie get starts in front of him in right field. And you know what? Rightfully so right now. Eventually, at some point in time, you have to make the right decision for the team, and you have to put your best out there night after night. I feel some people would flame me for saying this. I feel bad for him because he signed into a situation where he signed in as, I'm going to be your leadoff hitter, just like I've been used to the last 2 years. I'm going to be your center fielder. And that has not been so. Last year, he ended up in their 3-hole. He ended up in cleanup some days. I just, nothing's worked around him. And Dex is the kind of player that needs those things to work around him. He can fill a very specific role, but he cannot be like Matt Carpenter. He cannot be the guy that's going to anchor your offense. Those guys are not that. And the Cardinals have tried to force them into that because they have absolutely failed to establish a core in that lineup that any manager, a damn orangutan can pen in every night and not have to worry about it. And the Cardinals have failed to do that for years now. And you see what happens here. Then you try to stick a guy who's programmed himself to bat leadoff in Matt Carpenter. All of a sudden you try to make him a 3-hitter 2 years in a row. It's failed to work. So I feel bad for Dex, but yes, he's a grown man, and he can certainly, if launch angle is what he's buying into, get back to what makes you, Dex. And we'll see. Now, we started about this with the hitting coach, right? Mabry certainly, this is not an instructional league at the big leagues, guys. Mabry does not swing the bats for these guys. But if there is a consistent approach across the team that's not working, that's when you have to look at the hitting coach. If these guys are up there taking too many pitches, too many strikes, and then swinging a bunch of shit out the zone and are constantly down in the count, I'm sorry, but I do look at the hitting approach at that point. And I have seen the Cardinals. Somebody who has all the time in the world and doesn't have kids can probably, disprove me here. But I feel more times than not when I'm watching a game, and a game when they're definitely going bad, they're constantly behind in the count. So if it's approach, hitting coach. If it's just a guy stubborn, doesn't want to listen and trying to change to fit the times with launch angle and exit velocity, yeah, then I look at the player. But it's really hard to pinpoint who you blame ultimately here. But I think a new voice would be helpful for them. So I'm not out to get John Mabry. It doesn't make me feel better at night when I go to bed blaming him. But I do think the Cardinals need a new approach to hitting. I think this has gone on long enough. And it is a personnel problem too. So the front office shares a lot of this. And
credit where due, it was Eric Manning at Birds on the Black who did the deep dive on Dexter's launch angles and exit velocity and is the one who may have put his finger on part of what the problem may be with Dex. So.
Yeah, see, it seemed very valid. I mean, I couldn't read the whole article because I tried to read it on an iPhone at work in the middle of a meeting, and usually doesn't work out too well. I only retain so much when somebody's talking. All right. Enough of that. Cubs offense over the last 2 nights, guys. What have you seen?
You go first, Elliot, because
put Pete on mute.
I see a lot of stranded runners. I see a lot of not clutch hitting. Chris Bryant's power just seems to be gone right now. Still making contact, though. I've noticed an uptick in the strikeouts. It's a lot of pitches going by. But it's situational hitting. There has not been a lot of good situational hitting the last 2 days. Now, I will credit Chase Anderson with pitching a good game the other night, but they should have scored some runs in the last game against Milwaukee. Up until that point, the offense had been doing a pretty good job of getting runners in and in situational hitting, but you hate to see dropping those last 2 games against the Brewers. And it's not even like they lit up the score in the first game against the Brewers either. It took them until the 11th inning to actually start scoring some runs, and they did that in just 1 inning. So it could have been just that it was against Milwaukee, and that's where this problem was. I mean, even though we have seen the lack of scoring most of the year, they get going in spurts. So I don't know. Maybe it's just that downtick right now in the offense, and we're going to see it come back here, hopefully this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know that I have.
Into Pete.
I don't know that I have much to add. Yeah, just a complete lack of situational hitting, and I think that there are some holes in. This is so easy to say. There are some holes in Joe Madden's approach. Like the lineup that he rolled out, I know that he was trying to buy guys days off, but the only person that he ended up buying,
I did not understand that,
was Chris Bryant. If that was the case, then what was the point of keeping Chris Bryant on the bench if you're eventually going to use everybody else as a pinch hitter or as a defensive replacement? That lineup that he rolled out on Wednesday was
I thought it was ridiculous. I thought he was giving it away. He gave away that game, and that as soon as I saw the lineup,
I'm just going to put myself on mute, guys, and listen to you go at it. Go.
Seriously, and I'm like, why? I mean, I understand you're trying to get the best matchup against that pitcher, but those weren't the best matchup. Those weren't the best players out there to take that game. You have 2 results that are going to come out of that game on Wednesday. You're either going to leave a game and a half down, or you're going to leave a half game up. And I think everybody in that locker room wanted to leave a half game up out of Wrigley North, but they didn't. And I felt like they gave that game away.
I don't know that everybody did. I kind of got the feeling that Joe really didn't care. He seems to take this approach, and I get it. Every team is going to lose at least 50 games a year.
Yeah.
And so you have to accept that. But this is not the game to accept a loss.
Right.
You accept the loss to, the San Diego Padres. I mean, yes, you should beat them, but it's not going to affect you in the standings. But when you're playing your primary rivals, whether it's the Brewers or the Cardinals, you can't afford to drop any of those games head-to-head, and you have to compete for every inning of those games. And he didn't. On Wednesday night, he just did not, or Wednesday afternoon. He didn't
ask the Cardinals about the head-to-head games with the Cubs last year. If you take that out of the equation,
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's the same thing. It's actually the same thing for the Brewers right now.
Yes,
you take the Cubs out of the Brewers record, and there's something like 10 games up. They certainly didn't give up on that series, even after they got a demoralizing loss on Monday or Sunday night, Monday night.
Monday night.
Demoralizing. I mean, that most teams, you give up 5 runs in extra innings after that, after blowing the lead.
Josh Hader gives up his first. They lose their first game that Josh Hader has pitched in, and because I mean that's the thing that they talked about. Josh Hader comes in. The Brewers are 21-0. It's like, well, until that day. So it's just, I just felt like the effort wasn't given there in Wednesday's game.
And that's the kind of opportunity that you have when you're playing a team that is contending for the top of your division. You put the neck on them, or the boot on the neck, and you stomp down.
Yes.
And it didn't feel like Joe did that. Yeah. Game 2, what happened. It's odd to say that it was one of Tyler Chatwood's better outings, because
I was about to say
he only walked 2 guys. But fine, you chalk that up. I mean, right now we kind of expect that every 5th game we're going to lose. because you just can't count on Tyler Chatwood. If they're going to win those games, it's going to be despite him, not because of him. But an eminently winnable game yesterday, where the offense didn't come through. You wasted a beautiful performance by Mike Montgomery. He got pulled with, I think he had 76 pitches?
Yes.
Because you were going, and I get that. It's a 1-0 game. You have to take your shot. And that's one of your shots. So you pull him early in order to get a pinch hitter in. That's fine. But then after that, I mean, Joe gave up before the first pitch was thrown when he constructed that lineup.
Right. I tell you what, though, I thoroughly enjoyed the top of the 9th inning with the multiple switches with Brian Dunsing and Steve Cishek switching between left field and pitcher.
How did he look in left field? Did he look like scared or lost or just like praying to? Do you think, crawling to his head, do you think he's like, please God no, please God no, please God no, please God no?
Cishek said that he was terrified because somebody had given him sunglasses and apparently they were prescription and he couldn't see.
So he was Who's the idiot that gave him prescription sunglasses?
He needed sunglasses. And he went out there. I'm pretty sure it was Cishek. I was listening to the game on the radio. Cishek went out there with his pitcher's glove on.
He did, but somebody.
I don't think it would have mattered. I don't think
Will Venable ran out there with an outfielder's glove for him, so that he would at least, if the ball did get hit to him, he would at least have a chance of catching it.
And then they switched and brought in Contreras to play left field for the third out. And he was cold, and then made some circus catch out there in the left field corner. That's what it sounded like. I was listening to the radio, so it sounded like it was kind of they didn't expect him to catch it. Sort of.
I would have loved to see just like one of those knuckle line drives go at him, because those you guys, I don't know, it happened. I guess that happens something in softball all the time. When you get a baseball like dancing knuckleball line drive at you, that is a deer in headlights saying, "Oh my God, let me! Hopefully, I catch this. Hopefully,
I'm going to open my glove as wide as it'll go, and I'm going to put it.
Once it gets about 6 feet in front of me, I'm going to shut my eyes and pray to God that it finds the web." Yeah, those are the best ones to try to catch. Yeah, it probably looked like Matt Adams last year when the Cardinals tried to put him out in the outfield, because he looked, you read body language. It's like, just please, whatever you do, don't do it. Did you guys see Moneyball? Remember Chris Pratt's character? Played first base.
Yes.
Just praying that the ball never gets hit to me.
Yeah. That would be Scott Hatteberg.
Scott Hatteberg, that's right. Hattie. Star-Lord.
Yes. Before the transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was. Didn't he gain a little bit of weight after that to do the show? What the hell was it?
He already had some weight on there. He lost a lot. Yeah. He didn't really get into good shape until after.
I need to get a Hollywood role to get my body in shape. I think.
Yeah.
It might be the only thing. Come on, really?
Well, actually, that wasn't. Please don't take that personally. I was just making sure that you guys could hear it. Because what's far more
important. You're doing a sound test in the middle of the show. Thank you.
I did a sound test in the middle of the show because Elliot inspired me. So I did a search, and this is going to be fun because I'm getting quicker with this. And now that I have this soundboard, here's what's going to happen this whole weekend now. As Elliot and I are watching the game and we see the Cubs get men in scoring position, this is going to constantly run through our heads.
I see dead people.
Talking about base runners.
Yes, because they're not coming around to score.
Yep, that's right.
They are going to, or as Len and JD last week were constantly talking about, there will be lots of ducks out on the pond this weekend.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be like that movie, was it Falkirk? Dunkirk. The guy's on the beach just waiting to be rescued.
Yep.
You're going to see Schwarber out there on second base going,
somebody hit me home.
Yeah, please. I'm proud of myself for that reference.
Even though you got the name of the name.
I said Falkirk.
Okay.
I know.
You fixed it. You fixed it before I could correct you. So that's off.
The win for me. Yeah. All right. So, we're talking about some things earlier with just in baseball in general. We're talking about some of the let's go to a couple names here that don't laugh right away. Greg Holland. He's been sent to Double-A.
That's better than Miguel Sano, who got sent to single A.
Oh,
In
geez.
Fort Myers.
And better than Grichuk, who got sent from the big leagues directly to single A last year, if you remember correctly.
Well, that's what Sano happened to him. He was in the
Oh,
bigs.
did it?
Yeah,
Okay.
they designated him to single A today.
We were talking in the show a little bit earlier, not our show, the Cardinal show we were doing earlier, that you can
plug it, Cardinals Nation 24/7 podcast.
I will at the end.
Do it now.
Fine. Cardinals Nation 24/7, the official podcast of Cardinals Nation 24/7 Facebook page and Facebook group. All right. Onto the rest of this. So Greg Holland, first I want to start by saying this. Any GM or any organization that didn't have a lockdown bullpen, that had questions, and Greg Holland was available at the very end of spring training, even opening day. And yes, it's $14 million is nothing to sneeze at. But for most of these teams like this, it's a low risk, high reward type of signing. And if he could regain any form, if he would have pitched like he did in Colorado when he was going well, it's probably a risk that most GMs would agree that's worth taking if you had questions in your bullpen. And the Cardinals that going into the season certainly had questions going in the bullpen. I don't fault John Mozeliak or Mike Gersh for signing this guy. It just hasn't worked out. It hasn't, it hasn't worked out at all. It's actually been way worse than what anybody would have thought. So the question is, what do you do with him if he can't figure it out over the next few weeks? He's been sent down to Double-A Springfield, Missouri. As we were talking earlier, you kind of have to keep him around for a little while longer, because the last thing you want is to pay a guy $14 million, release him, have him catch on with somebody in the National League, for God forbid your division, and then all of a sudden figure it out mid-year. And then you're paying a guy $14 million, another team's paying him $500,000, and prorated portion of that to pitch against you. So it's better for the Cardinals to keep him around and see if he can figure it out. Eventually, they are going to have to make a decision. They will have to. He's not a minor leaguer with a bunch of options or anything, so they are going to have to make a decision at some point in time. Now, again, with that said, I don't blame them for rolling the dice on him and taking a risk, but it hasn't worked out. So a decision, it'll come to a head, and they'll have to decide one way or the other. So
that the Greg Holland experience, and this was something that I thought about literally months ago. But it's certainly relevant now as you bring it up. I wonder if the experience with Greg Holland and with Alex Cobb, so two guys who got signed late, did not have spring training. Greg Holland,
Lance Lynn, you got to throw him in there too. Not as late, but yes,
right.
late.
We know, obviously, we're well versed in Greg Holland's struggles, but you look at Alex Cobb, he's 2-8 right now with a 7.23 ERA in 56 innings. He is not doing anything.
It's like Kip Wells' number,
right?
Yeah.
Jake Arrieta is the outlier here, right? Jake Arrieta is a freak, and we knew that previously, and he's just proving it.
We've known it for years. Like, right. He's a freak, workout freak. If there was any one of those guys that you looked at, Pete, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but if there's any one of those guys you looked at and said, who's going to be the most prepared? Right?
Yeah, it was obvious it was going to be Arrieta.
Right.
He didn't need to face live hitting,
he's angry enough to make himself do that.
Right. Even if he hadn't felt slighted, he was still angry.
Right.
Because that's just who he is.
You're gonna pay that guy $200 million, and he's still been pissed off.
Pissed off because he didn't get 250. Yeah. Yep. But I wonder if that experience is going to change the way that free agents approach the offseason now. If they take that offer that's maybe not great from their standpoint, but they take the very best offer, and not necessarily monetarily, but the best offer that's on the table when spring training starts, rather than holding out in the hopes that they're going to get a better offer from a desperate team and that they're going to be able to show up, because there's obviously a reason for spring training, and this year is showing it. And it's particularly true of pitchers.
Absolutely. And I think if anything, Pete, I think you're right, but it should clear up their expectations. For right. what teams these, I mean, we're seeing a huge change, guys, and what, I mean, now we don't know that yet. Let me walk that back a second. I think this offseason will ultimately tell us if the game has changed as much as we predicted or think or feel it has, based on what happened this last offseason, because you have very big names that are available next year. Now, if people go hog wild and the dollars that we're used to seeing spent on these big names happens in the offseason, then okay, well, then we're kind of back to the norm, right? If it doesn't, and those big dollars only get spent on those couple guys that people think are that unique and that unique of an opportunity where you're willing to do that, but the other guys who are, yes, we know that they're valuable, we know that they've established some kind of reputation, consistency, but I'm still not going to give this guy the Scott Boras contract that Scott Boras thinks he's going to have. This offseason is really going to tell us if that whole game has changed that much or not. But I do think that you're right, Pete, given the example of some of these guys that signed very late and they've been off to extremely slow, poor, miserable starts, I do think it'll make these guys suck. I do absolutely believe that some of these guys that are like Lance Lynn tier or Greg Holland tier, I don't think they're going to mess around next year.
And those are the guys who are most likely to last that long, you know.
Right.
It's not the same, but Bryce Harper is not going to wait until the eve of the season to sign a contract.
No.
Right. He's going to get taken care of. Well,
there's been enough people there that are willing to throw dollars at him. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
It's not
and
going
he's
to
make it. He's not going to try and hold out because the best offer on the table is $300 million and he wants to crack 400. He's
Right.
going to take the best offer because it's a lot of money.
Mhm.
It's going to be that middle tier of players.
How quickly, Pete? How quickly do you expect Bryce Harper to sign a
It'll be done
contract?
before Christmas, I think.
Why wouldn't you ask me that, Elliot? Why'd you ask him? He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Because I'm pretty sure St. Louis isn't going to try and sign him.
Motherfucker. Well, you're right. You're right. They're not.
No, they will. They'll just offer him 175 in 6 years instead of
No. Here's what'll happen. They'll offer him
higher average annual value, but fewer years, a lot fewer years.
No,
right?
They'll offer him $400 million for 10 years, and the Cubs will swoop in and sign him for $150 million for 8 years.
Oh, shut up!
Because he wants to be on a winning squad.
yeah.
Oh, you're calling it upon yourself. Your day of reckoning will come.
Bring it because as you know, and I established this weeks ago, I think that the Cubs' primary target is going to be Manny Machado. It's not going to be
and as the season has gone on, I think you're correct. I think that's who they are going to go.
You guys think they'll hold out for just free agency on him? They're not going to try to do a deal and then sign?
Well, one, I don't think they've got enough to land him in a trade. Two, Peter Angelos is crazy, so we don't know if there actually will be a trade. But three, I don't think that he's not the solution to a problem that the Cubs have.
Has a guy like Peter Angelos, like many presidents or owners of companies and organizations, as they reach those top tier levels, they seem to get more out of touch with reality, and they only allow a certain select set of voices to influence them.
Yes,
you notice that, right?
And complicating things. Apparently, Dan Duquette has fallen out of favor within the organization, within the ownership. So it doesn't matter what deal he brings to Angelos. Angelos is ultimately going to end up negotiating it himself because apparently he doesn't trust Dan Duquette anymore.
Because he knows better.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, good luck.
Yeah. Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Cubs wait until free agency. I don't think that we're going to see them really. I don't see them being a player in the Manny Machado market, except maybe
at the trade deadline. At the
trade deadline, right?
Yeah.
Except to drive up the cost on somebody else.
Okay. I wouldn't disagree with that either. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. When the Cardinals get bad enough here, you start hearing voices yell out in terror that we have to have somebody like that. We have to have some kind of impact thing like that. But we were talking about, we've talked about for weeks now, the culture in the Cardinals clubhouse, something's off. And I've felt that way for 2+ years now, that something's just not quite right.
No, wait, they're fun. They play tricks on
you.
No.
They do the you know what? No,
I'm sorry, the conga.
Pete.
They're fun.
Pete.
I think there's a clash between those who want to make it fun and everybody else who's like, no, we're serious.
No. Well, Elliot, you actually may be right. But Pete.
Yes.
You know better than this. That you're not I know, but you're not buying what MLB.com will tell you about the Cardinals clubhouse.
No.
So I don't believe the conga line. Yeah, okay. It's kind of, I'm glad some people are having fun at some points in time. which is better than previous years. However, there is something off within the culture of the clubhouse. That team hasn't gelled. That team has little chemistry as compared to what, when the Cardinals were always going good, there was chemistry in that clubhouse. A guy earlier tonight brought up a great point. When the camera used to pan on the Cardinals dugout, you'd see guys like Albert Pujols talking to other players about the pitcher. You could see them kind of mimicking swings in the dugout. That's a great point that I hadn't landed on me in the same way, but he was absolutely right that you look over there now and nobody's talking about hitting. You don't see the hitting coach up talking to these guys as often. Maybe it happens. The camera's only over there so often, and none of us are at the ball games every day, and none of us are in the dugouts, but that's very true. Very true that we'd see Albert in the dugout, not pouting in a corner. We would constantly see him talking to another player about what he's seeing from the pitcher. And that is very true that these days I just don't see. And maybe that's baseball widespread, but yeah, he's absolutely right. I don't see it as much in their dugout. I think the Cardinals really have a culture problem in the clubhouse. Maybe it's not a problem. It's just so different than when they were going good. I know winning does these kinds of things, but
yeah,
I just don't think they have a cohesive, gelled unit, and they haven't for years, and I don't think it's happening this year. So something has to shake loose, and we can speculate all night long on what that needs to be, but
I think it comes from the top, and I think that's Matheny, and I think that's one of the things that maybe he should either work on or get better at, because he can still be the manager and he can still be serious about his job, but he's also the one that is. It kind of starts with him either allowing or giving that notion that, hey guys, this is baseball. Have fun. Do what you guys have been doing since you were 12, or 10 or whatever.
Well, that wasn't the voice of Tony La Russa, I guarantee you.
No, definitely not. And Matheny was under a La Russa, so
what time is it?
It is 10 o'clock.
Well, that
according to the
you need to fix your parents' clock.
Yeah. Sorry about that, people.
It's all right. We can edit it out. I'm not going to edit it out.
So maybe that's all Matheny knows is this serious style of baseball. And, there's a lot of guys in that locker room that maybe that's all they know is this serious style of baseball. And they won't change to this, hey, this loose clubhouse of having fun, goosing each other in the dugout, giving high fives, doing, having the guys come in after they hit a home run and doing the camera,
Yeah, you know what though? But imminent threat of missing the playoffs 3 years in a row is definitely. It's going to change the atmosphere. Okay, so winning and losing has an effect on that. But I'm just talking about the Cardinals. What I guess I'm talking about right now is the Cardinals' ability in the past. I understand the free agency and trade game has changed. With the introduction of a compensation pick, with all these other things that you have to factor in. There's something to be said about their ability to trade for a big name and somehow retain them, and rather big names in the past. So you know what, you can argue against. You can point to two cases and say it didn't work. It was bound to not work. You can't do that with everybody. There's going to be a guy or two that comes along that wants to play on a coast or wants to play somewhere else. It's just what they want to do, and it's their choice to do that. So you can't win them all, so to speak. But it kind of plays with your mind as a Cardinals fan, as their success hasn't been there it's been 2+ years to us, but to us it feels like a decade. So we have to look internally at what's happening there in the dugout, in the clubhouse, and there's questions, and none of us know. We're all fans, so we really don't know. Right. But we only know what we can see, what we're allowed to hear. And I certainly, sure as hell, don't go to MLB.com to get my news.
No.
Right. So I don't know.
No, we do ourselves a favor. We go to The Athletic, which is pretty damn wonderful, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
If any of you listeners have not subscribed to The Athletic, do it. It is the most insightful reading on sports around.
And And it's not soundbite. It's not theatrical either. It's very like
it's in-depth articles.
It is in depth, and they answer to no one. And they can be, given their position, they can be as boisterous as they want, and they can risk not having access that they have now. And none of them do that. Like, they don't write articles for the headline.
Right.
No, they also don't. Sorry, they don't kiss the team's ass either, which I do appreciate.
No, and I tell you what, Shadi Sharma has done an awesome job with the Cubs beat. So I
would agree with you.
He's becoming one of my favorite. Like, he writes an article, I'll go read.
You sure? Because the other guy you guys follow on Twitter, I would think that you like him more.
Oh, Michael Cerami. You love
me. Yeah. I'm probably being unfair to the guy.
Probably not.
But I don't think I am.
I think you are. Hey, I have one before we wrap things up, and this is not related to, well, it's kind of related to our team, Elliot. I've been searching, and I can't seem to find the deafening calls for a suspension of Matt Kemp, nor calling him out as a dirty player.
Because it happened in L.A. Nobody gives a shit.
Because he blew up. For those who missed it, I don't know how you missed it. That absolutely was an illegal play. Catcher had the ball. You're not supposed to blow up a catcher, right?
Well, okay. Let's lay this out here, Pete. Though, I mean, we mostly follow people who are following our teams,
right,
on Twitter, right?
Right, but they're baseball fans.
They're baseball fans, but
so they saw Matt Kemp blow up Robinson Chirinos.
But the problem is with Twitter or Facebook or anything else that we follow, they don't care. That happened on the West Coast. It happened late at night. They don't care.
But it's not just Cardinals Twitter. And I'm not faulting Cardinals Twitter on this one. I'm talking about guys like Brian Kenny, and all of the holier than thou analysts on the various sports networks who pilloried Anthony Rizzo for a slide that was deemed by New York at the time legal, and said that he was a dirty player, that he should have been suspended, he should have been thrown out, all of this stuff. When it was questionable whether or not it was legal, it was later determined that it was illegal, but in the moment it was determined to be legal. Yeah. Nobody said that it was dirty, except people who have an animus against Anthony Rizzo. And yet Matt Kemp goes out and does something that not only is clearly illegal, but is also dirty.
He could have hurt.
Silence is deafening.
Well, yeah, I don't disagree with you, Pete, but it would seem deafening in the Midwest for sure, right? Because it doesn't affect either of our teams. It's not near to us.
But where's Brian Kenny? I mean, come on.
You're right. Brian Kenny should be more neutral.
If he's going to call for action against Anthony Rizzo, and he's going to call the play dirty, then where is he on Matt Kemp? And I haven't seen anything today about what a dirty player Matt Kemp is.
I know, you know what, and I haven't been as in tune to MLB. Full disclosure, guys, I've listened less and less to MLB network radio. You know what, some of those guys I really like their insight on there, but it's really, I have no nice way of saying this, and part of me feels bad because they're just doing their jobs, but it's like, I'm sorry, but it's just like, meh. Blah, blah, blah. You're going to interview a player. He has nothing interesting to say about himself. Not that he's not an interesting human being or he doesn't have hobbies or habits or, great life stories, but it's like, Jesus, they interview these young players and it's like they have nothing to say. Nothing. Guys, I would love to have more players on our show and talk to them, but again, part of me doesn't even want to invite them. It's not that I don't think they have interesting stories to say. It's just like, everybody's so programmed to what the media asks you that you really can't get interesting with what you actually answer back. Like, how did you prepare in the off season? Who gives a shit how they prepare in the off season? Who cares? Who cares what they look for when they go up to the plate? I want to know, what pitcher made you pee a little bit when you stepped in the batter's box? Why doesn't anybody ask any fucking questions like that? That's what I would rather know. But Pete,
because they don't want to embarrass the players, right? They don't want
those players that actually. I guarantee you, there'd be a fair amount of players that would love to tell a story like that. And
after they're done, because they don't want to talk about somebody while their career is still active.
Okay, right, fine. But there's going to be a few misfits, and that's the golden nuggets you're trying to uncover. Now, going back to Brian Kenny, yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Pete. There are
he had I've located it. He had one tweet, and this is where this is the hypocrisy that gets under my skin. Here's his tweet about it.
Yeah.
The question is, was he up to no good? Ruling, no. Neither Matt Kemp nor Robinson Chirinos were guilty of nefarious activity. Honest collision. We're good here. I'm sorry. Anthony Rizzo was not up to no good. He was trying to break up a double play.
And so, you do know that.
Why is Brian Kenny willing to give Matt Kemp a pass and call it an honest collision?
So your beef is with some of the mainstream guys that it's supposed to be more neutral. And
my beef is with anybody who had a problem with what Anthony Rizzo did and doesn't have a problem. And it doesn't matter whether you're mainstream or you're sitting on the sidelines. You need to be consistent. You need to be consistent. I didn't have a problem with what Anthony Rizzo did, and honestly, I didn't have a problem with what Matt Kemp did last night. It was a baseball play.
And you know where I stood on that as a Cardinal fan with Anthony Rizzo. We've covered that already. Like I think he was at that play. He was it was instinctual to him that he was trying to break up a double play, and I don't think
it was instinctual for Matt Kemp to bowl over Robinson Chirinos because he was out and he had the ball, and that was his only opportunity to score was to run into it.
Yeah. So I kind of have to defer to you guys. I've only read a headline of this Matt Kemp slide. I have not seen it myself, so I can't comment intelligently on it. He
was out by 10 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but just going back to the Rizzo slide, I mean, a lot of Cardinal fans that, and even in the show recorded last week with Daniel and Chris and everybody, we were like, no, we'd never. Based on that alone, we're not going to call Anthony Rizzo a dirty player, nor do we even think that's a dirty play. Now, Spike's up.
Spike's up.
Different story.
Yeah,
that's a whole different story. Yeah. But he's trying to break up a double play, and I think that was more instinct than it was him being aware of what people were going to see.
Right.
Clearly, you slid on the side of the plate that you wouldn't normally slide on, but it is what it is, and I think Major League Baseball did the appropriate thing. He didn't deserve a fine or suspension or anything like that. So.
I mean, and
it came out.
It's not like he was making contact with the ump,
right?
You know, when you should.
Oh, Elliot, stop it! Stop it!
It goes back to Doug Glanville's piece, which may be my clarion call for the year. If you really want to eliminate contact, then eliminate contact. Make all contact illegal, every base. You can't run into anybody ever. There's no exceptions to that. You can't block the plate. You can't initiate contact. And if you do, you're out.
Well,
or the runner is safe.
And the thing is this, Pete, think about this, right? I mean, if you're going to slide into a base, naturally your feet are going to be aimed towards the base. If they're aimed anywhere outside of the base, illegal, right?
And because too many players have gotten hurt sliding head first. So it's almost always going to be feet first.
Into second base is kind of one of into second.
Or into home. Into home, there's absolutely a reason to slide head first in order to avoid the tag and to be able. You can't make those kind of mid-slide adjustments with your feet.
Yeah, I don't think the head first or feet first really matters. I think it's like whatever is aimed that's going to hit the base first should be aimed to hit the base. Outside of it, then. But maybe that's illegal.
The only reason that you should be, I mean, if we're going to go down this path, if we're going to eliminate all collisions, and I personally don't think that makes baseball the most interesting.
No.
To watch. But if you're going to eliminate those collisions, then it needs to be something along the lines of the only reason to not slide directly into the base is to avoid a tag. That's the only reason. Right. So there's no reason to.
They just have to be careful to not leave it so subjective that people can't make a reasonable call consistently on it. And I think that's what's where.
And here's the example, right? And where you would see it the most would be at second base. There would be no reason to not slide directly into second base when the other team is turning the double play. None whatsoever.
Mhm.
You shouldn't. There should be no reason to deviate because it's not a tag play. It's a force play. So there is no reason to slide towards a second baseman or a
And most
shortstop.
likely that guy's never going to be standing in front unless the pitcher makes a shitty throw and it's like in front of the bag where it shouldn't be.
And as long as a second baseman or a shortstop continues to do what they're currently trained to do, which is to use the base to push off to get out of the baseline, there will be no collisions because there's no reason for a runner to slide outside of that path.
Yeah.
Because they're not avoiding a tag. I mean, write it down like that. In no case will there be any collisions at a base. The only reason to deviate from the base path, the only allowable reason to deviate from the base path is to avoid a tag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. If it's a force play, you better be straight into that bag and that's it. Yep. Like you go outside of it, body, whatever.
Similarly, but
if you slide horizontally into the bag, that's like, is that illegal? I mean, there's all kinds of things to think about there, right?
Similarly, it would have to be a little bit different at home because at home, you can slide past the bag, but then there has to be a corresponding move with the fielders that they can't block the bag.
Yeah, it gets complicated. I mean, you really think about how plays break down. It's not as easy as some of us think. Like we start talking through it.
You can't block home plate. You have to swipe.
Which there are guys that do this for a living and can dedicate every hour of every day thinking about this kind of stuff that can't figure it out either. And we're certainly not going to with full-time day jobs and at night late.
And that's why I don't think that you will ever be able to get rid of collisions. And so I think that you need to accept that and do.
But you can control what you call a dirty play or a dirty play.
Correct. And so then you need to write it up to avoid the most egregious, the most physically dangerous collisions, but you still need to allow for it because it's a part of the game. It always has been, and I think that it always will be.
Well, it's no different than a player deciding whether to swing at something or not. It's split second, and a guy's caught in the middle of something, and his body goes in weird to a bag, and he happens to clip a guy. I really think that anybody who has a platform needs to consider that before they come out and go. And with any player, I mean, even going into the Yachty, bumping into the umpire. Yeah, he made contact and he got a game. Arguably, he should have got more than one. But heat of the moment, manager saying something about him, the guy, it's all reaction, heat of the battle. You got to think about those kinds of things and like what, I'm sure they do, guys, put themselves in the position and they got to take the umpire's input into the decision as well. But there's just so many factors that don't make sense when you just try to write them out in black and white. And so it gets convoluted, it gets complex, and and bias comes into it too. Now, Brian Kenny, I can't explain that one. Pete, you already know what I think of that guy. Him and his shredder and his stats and all that shit. I mean, you know what? He may be right. He may be right about his shredder and all that stuff and his analytics. I'm sorry, but when he had that segment on MLB Network, I tuned out to that shit. He was boring anyway when he talked about it. So why he has a very subjective opinion on who he's calling dirty or not? Where are your analytics now? What, you don't apply those now? Now you want to get emotional now, but you don't get in any other circumstance? Fine, buddy. Have it your way.
Hey, speaking of umpires, I don't know if either of you guys caught this. Did you see the video that was leaked out from I'm blanking on it. It came out yesterday, and supposedly MLB worked to take it down, but I know it went back up of an ump who was mic'd after a player got ejected.
I tweeted this out. This was the
fascinating.
It was
what the hell? What the hell was that? Can you play it, Pete? Can you find it?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do to find it.
Yeah, I think I
Elliot,
have it.
Elliot, you fill the space
you
while
describe it. Yeah, you describe it. I'll track it down.
Elliot, you fill the space, and Pete will look for it.
So what it is it's the New York Mets and Noah Syndergaard is pitching, and I can't.
So this is recent. It wasn't an old.
This is I think this was maybe last year. I have a feeling.
Okay.
So Noah Syndergaard throws behind a player, and it was an obvious, signal that he was either gonna get plunked or, hey, you got, something happened. It was a retaliation, and he was immediately thrown out. Mm-hmm. And so the home plate umpire is, yelling at Syndergaard. And I think it's either the third base or the second base umpire finally comes over, and he's the one that's mic'd up. And he's in Syndergaard's like.
Hold on, Elliot. Look at the focus on his face in the bottom of the screen.
Oh yeah, he's going.
All right. Sorry, keep going.
He should be able to find it quick because I retweeted it. So I thought it was very interesting.
Well,
so
it's
anyways,
taking him a lot longer than you, so maybe I should have asked you to do it instead of him. But that's okay.
So it's just the conversation between Noah Syndergaard and the umpire, and then is it the Mets coach?
Is it Callahan? No, that's Auto Parts.
No, it's
Callaway. Gary Collins.
Gary Collins.
No, he's not. He's not the manager anymore.
Last year, right?
Pitching coach for the Cleveland Indians. I want to say, God damn it! I said a golf. Is it Callaway?
Anyway, Collins.
No, he was the manager last year. He's like,
yeah, it was last year.
It was last year. Yeah, this was not. this year.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of right now.
So I mean, it was. So you can see the relationship between the managers and the umpire, and because Collins called him.
Pete, is this clip ready yet? Because Elliot's doing his best, but he's trying to drag it on as far as he can. He's running out of gas.
I'm working at it because MLB did scrub it. They pulled it, but it popped up again. So I'm gonna do my best.
All right.
He made all right, Elliot. I'll save you and I'll spare you this. This is the Cubs Cardinals social media tonight.
My prediction.
All the headlines talk about the bullpen. It's only talking about the bullpen. The bullpen couldn't hold the lead. The bullpen couldn't hold them. My God, this is what we're talking about. The bullpen in the headlines. I mean, the problem is the offense is not. The bullpen's fault. These guys only score like 1 or 2 runs every other game. They're inconsistent. They've been inconsistent for like 4 or 5 seasons. They don't do anything about it. They keep running the same people out there. Oh yeah, Matt Carter. He's going to be our third hitter this year. He's never been able to do it. We keep counting on that. We've got Jose Martinez. Love the guy. Come on,
we get problems.
It's under control.
The Cardinals offense. Hold our chess pieces.
I've got it. I've got it right here. You got it? Okay.
Yeah, I got it. All right. Let me see. Let me know if you guys can hear this first of all, and if not, then I'll download it.
Okay.
Can you hear the ad right now?
No.
No?
Right. Do you need a few more minutes?
Can you hear it now?
No.
No? Nothing? All right. Hang on.
All right.
Working on it. Stretch.
All right,
talk about something. I will have
Yeah.
All right. Anyway. Elliot, what do you think? So we got a couple matchups coming up between the Cardinals and the Cubs. We haven't even got into this yet, guys. We do a Cubs-Cardinals show. We haven't even
talked about the preview of.
Why don't we do that while
why don't you just work on loading that clip and don't talk to us?
I am. No, I can do 2 things at once. Be amazed.
Apparently not.
All right,
hey, it's not my fault that it won't share.
All right, so who do we got coming up? Who do we have tomorrow pitching for the Cubs visiting St. Louis? I think we have Lester, right?
Yeah.
I say we. I said you sons of bitches. Who do the Cardinals have?
Don't they have Carlos going?
No.
Yeah, Michael Wacha. So it's
right.
Lester versus Wacha, game 1. Game 2 is Hendricks versus Martinez. In game 3 is Quintana versus Flaherty. So it's a great matchup.
Cardinals have the right. I mean, they threw Michaelis 2 days ago. I would love to see him throw against Chicago again. However, Wacha has been really, really good lately. So I like the pitching matchup on game 1. Obviously, not so much the lineup matchup, but it'll be interesting. I mean, the over/under on Tommy Pham getting picked off again by John Lester.
Oh, I was kind of counting on that.
1.5.
Like 115% or like 1.15%.
No. As you know, how many times he's going to get picked off by John Lester? I put it at 1.5.
All right, kind of tough to judge. I don't think he'll get picked off by John Lester.
Over/under. Over/under is one.
That's the real question you should ask: is he going to get on base? All right, so we have the clip. All right, so we'll give him another minute here. What should we play, Elliot? In the meantime, should we?
Oh, I think we're good.
Well,
Do you want to hear? Oh, hold on. All right. So anyway,
what I was going to ask is, what are your projections? What do you think happens in the series?
I think the Cardinals. I'm just being candid here, based on the way they've played lately. I would not be happy, but I would be content with them taking 1 out of 3 in this upcoming series. They are a serious threat to get swept, though, because they are not playing good baseball. Offense is not hasn't been consistent for Jesus. It felt like a broken record. I say this every week. They can salvage one of these games. Okay. Then they keep themselves in the game until the All-Star break and trade deadline and getting guys healthy. That's what I hope for.
The last time we did this, the Cubs got swept. So,
yeah. Okay. Doesn't apply here, man. I mean, those were all tight games.
Yeah, they really were. And I think it's going to be the same. I think we went into the last series together.
I think it risks not being the same, though, Elliot. I disagree with you on that one.
With both of the offenses struggling. And we're going into the series again with both offenses struggling. And the Cubs have had a hard time closing out one-run games.
Hard for me to believe, given the Cubs lineup. Is like,
I know.
It's got to be super. I mean, I'm okay for a second. Just for a second, I'm going to try to put myself in you guys' position, which is I don't like to do.
Let's just.
It feels like wearing an uncomfortable pair of underwear. All right, Pete. So go ahead.
I was just going to say. I mean, as far as the Cubs lineup goes,
I see dead people.
So.
Well, we say that when they're at the plate.
Yes.
Especially like when. Never mind. I don't want to be that guy. But
you know what? What I love going into this series is Jason Hayward's hitting, and I would love to see him get a few base knocks these next couple games against the Cardinals.
Outside the Cardinals, when he's hot, I would just knock him down.
Cardinals fans have been razzing him every time he's come into town.
Well, but
they're still
unreasonable. I mean, I know. Look.
Uh-oh.
Here
we go.
He's going to give his projection.
Well, before he jumps in, I'm going to say this. I didn't say what I thought last time.
Hold on, babe. Okay. Hold on. Okay. I got to switch the things around here. Hold on.
Okay.
I can't hear you. Hang on.
Well, wait. While you're switching, I'm going to fill in. I didn't say it the last time around. What I really thought. I tried to be optimistic.
Nope.
I think that the Cardinals win 2 out of 3 in this series.
Oh, Jesus, Pete.
I think that it's the Cubs who are actually in danger of being swept.
You think it's the Cubs that are actually in danger of being swept this weekend?
Yeah.
Braden, did you hear all that?
Based on what I saw the last 3 games, absolutely.
Braden, did you hear any of that? Oh, he's talking. Hold on.
No, I'm dead serious. I think the Cardinals win this series, and I think that there is a legitimate shot that they could get swept because the offense is just not producing against good teams.
Braden, are you on mute? Oh, wait, I have you on mute. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Braden.
Ron with the audio expertise.
Dad?
Yep.
We lost 1 out of 3 at home to the Padres. The Padres. The only guy on the team is Eric Hosmer and Brad Hand.
Hey, Braden, quiet for a minute. Quiet.
Mike
Guys.
Matheny said they're a good team.
Did you hear them?
That's so.
Hold on. Pete, ask again. He's in his own world. He doesn't care about what we're saying.
Braden, did you hear that? Mike Matheny said the Padres are a good team.
He called to spew venom at us.
The Padres are a good team? That's like saying the Cleveland Browns are a good team. Or the Chicago Bears are a good team.
Whoa.
You got your mouth there, buddy.
They're not good.
You're the only Packers fan on this call.
You guys have known this for years.
Hang up.
Yeah, should I hang up? You just want me to hang up now?
What is it?
Gone too far.
Matheny doesn't know what he's talking about. He probably thinks, Mark McGwire, the Padres are a good team. They took It's 2 games in series. We're good. Yeah.
Is he talking Southern accent when he goes on the versus normal nights? I mean,
a teacher at my school was reading a book about Mike Matheny. I walked up to her and I told her, I said, if you're trying to get tips on how to manage a baseball game and learn about the game of baseball, then I suggest you put down that book.
All right.
That's amazing. And what did she say?
She said, well, he does suck as a manager. So, yeah, I
Your
guess
teacher
you're right.
said this to you.
Yep.
Okay.
But the Padres?
Yeah.
The Padres.
Yep. We've covered that, man.
My aunt and uncle went to the first game of the Cubs and Brewers series, and they actually went to a lucky game because our luck would be opposite, Dad. We would go to the one where the Cardinals would have got 2 hits like the Cubs did, and then the one game we wouldn't go to, they would win. That's always happens every single time. Every time.
Yeah, you're right. Luckily, the most important game we went to was 2013 NLCS against the Dodgers, where they struck Puig out like 4 times.
Yeah, but it was 1-0, and
he threw a tantrum every time at home plate.
Golden sombrero.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right.
It was only 1-0, and there was like 6 combined hits, though.
All right, Braden, why don't you stay on with us while we get ready to exit here, and you can tell everybody goodbye. So stay on.
I hope we take 2
He doesn't
out
care
of
what I
this
say.
show.
He just like
I hope we sweep.
he's like the Stugatz. The show. Like he doesn't listen to anything we say. He just when we talk, he's just thinking about the next time he wants to talk and get he wants to get his take out there.
He's not listening. He's thinking of what he's going to say next.
Hot take.
Exactly. Yeah. He's a hot take machine as a 13-year-old. Yep. And should we real quick, Braden? How's the MLB the show 18 going for you so far?
2032.
Give us a brief. Give us a Cliff Notes.
I actually did a successful rebuild.
Okay.
I won the World Series with the freaking who was it? Oh, the Reds. I took the Reds to the World Series. Be proud.
Who was on the team? You said you made a character for Pete Elliott and me.
Yeah.
You made players for us. How did we do?
Yes. Oh, I made you guys have the best stats, and somehow,
how did Pete do though? Not as well as me.
Oh, Pete pitched great.
He's a pitcher.
Good, but you sucked.
What? What? How is that possible?
Believe it or not, I sent you down to AAA.
What? What?
It.
You sent your dad to AAA.
You were batting 220.
That's better than Fowler.
I don't care for 99 overall with max stats.
Well, you screwed something up.
80 overall.
No, I blame it on the GM. That's you.
Okay.
The hitting coach made him start using launch angles.
All right, Braden, you have to stop and listen for a second. We're getting ready to sign off here, so you can stay on.
Okay, so before we do, all right. So finally got everything set up. We're ready to go. So to put a little context,
got a clip here.
This is from May 28th, 2016.
Okay.
And this is classic. Major League Baseball, I know they tried to get rid of this. They need to leave it up because this is the kind of thing that I think would actually build new fans. And they need the mic umps for many reasons.
Yeah,
we can get into it later. They need the mic ump. So here's some background. It's the top of the 3rd inning. Syndergaard's on the mound. Chase Utley is up to bat. And this is after Utley slid into Ruben Tejada the previous October and injured him. Okay, and so I believe that this is the first game back that these two teams have faced each other This is the first opportunity to do something with Chase Utley. And Syndergaard throws behind Utley.
Okay.
He immediately gets ejected. And so the voices that you're primarily going to hear here are the first base ump and crew chief, Tom Hallion, and then Terry Collins. And it'll be very easy to tell which one's Hallion and which one's Collins, because Collins kind of loses his mind. And Tom Hallion was brilliant, man. You're going to love this.
All right. I heard it.
No, Pete, off mic, off mute, off mute.
You're done. No, I mean, you can't do that. You're not in that situation, man. You can't. That ain't gonna happen. I mean, I know you're gonna say that, but that ain't gonna happen. I mean, that's the wrong time to do it. That's all. I'm telling you.
Wrong time to do anything.
Well, it is what it is, but that ain't gonna happen. Our ass is in the jackpot. We don't do something there. I'm just telling you that.
Shouldn't there be a warning?
No. I mean, okay, the situation of what happened and everything else, that's what dictates that. Okay?
But there was no prior knowledge that before the game started. I mean, if Harry comes into the dugout and says, hey, if somebody gets hit, then that's...
everybody knows what the situation is, okay?
So that's his conversation with Syndergaard. Here comes Terry Collins.
Take him. Terry. Get a handle. Come on, let's go. Come on, talk to me. Talk to me.
Tommy, that's fucking bullshit.
You know it. Then you talk to me
I
about
know,
it.
but you know,
okay.
You gotta give us a shot.
You know what?
You gotta give us a shot,
okay,
Tom.
listen to me. Let me hear what I'm saying, okay? You get your shot. You had your shot right there in the situation.
Well, why
you
not?
know the situation,
I know
Terry.
it. Why don't we get a shot, Tommy?
Because that makes it worse. Terry, that makes it fucking worse.
I know it. But MLB did nothing to that guy. Nothing.
Okay, I can't control that, Terry. I can't control that. You know as well as I do Terry, you know where I stand on the whole fucking situation. But
you're better than that, Tommy. You know that.
Terry, listen, I'm telling you, our ass is in the jackpot now. Okay, I'm just telling you.
Fucking motherfucker.
You know what?
Wow.
You got it. Okay, get it. You got everything out.
I mean, he handled that beautifully. But that's the kind of stuff that you don't.
He actually did, because I could imagine a manager like lingering on forever.
Yeah, he pulled him. So what you can't see obviously there is because it's all audio. But what if you go and you find the video, you see like Tom Hallion is talking to Noah Syndergaard, right? And meanwhile, the home plate ump, who's the one who threw out Syndergaard, he's dealing with Utley getting pissed and the catcher getting ticked off. And then Terry Collins comes flying out of there, and you hear him say, "You take care of him," and he walks Terry Collins away from everything. And then Terry Collins loses it on him, and somehow Tom Hallion manages to keep his cool and just says, Terry, I'm hearing you. You got your shot. You got to throw at him. But now you know what the situation was. We all knew what was coming into this game, and that's what it's going to be. He handled it beautifully, man. He diffused that situation wonderfully.
Right.
And if Major League Baseball would mic up more umps and release this kind of stuff, and you can absolutely beep them out when they swear, but if they would release more of this stuff, I think they would actually create more fans and more interest in the game, because that's the kind of stuff that we don't know what's going on. We don't know what guys are saying to get them ejected or to get them so hot. All they see is an
animated manager feeling like they were dissed or something, like they're unfairly treated. You don't hear any of this stuff, and all you see is a stoic ump, and you think, man, that's a soulless guy, and he's just tossing this guy out for no reason. And obviously that was a situation where there was there's a history behind there. Like everybody knew what was going to happen. Everybody knew the context. So that was a good clip.
And they and just to take it a step further, like what do you have to lose by miking the crew chief and then having him come on just like they do in hockey, just like they do in football, and explain a review?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Come on and say the play was overturned because of X. Because the only people who know why a play was or was not overturned or upheld or whatever is because the guys up in the booth do the homework. They get in touch with the league office and they report it, but that's only to the people who are watching on TV or listening on the radio. The people in the stands have no idea why that play was upheld or why it was overturned.
Right.
And it wouldn't require anything more than just giving him the same kind of remote pack that any referee in the NHL or the NFL has. and 5 seconds. Upon review by the league office, play was overturned, because
as long as it's Ed Hocules in the undersized jersey.
Well, obviously.
To show the biceps off. It would be all cool. All right, gentlemen. Pete.
When we're not live, you can find us at teamofrivalspodcast.com, on Facebook at Team of Rivals Podcast, on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod, and on Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast. You can contact us at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com. You can contact Elliot at
TOR_Elliot
on Twitter. Braden, you can reach by
PS4.
PS4, yeah. And my game tag is capital Y, yes, capital Y, yes, capital Y, yes, 22. Because I didn't know what to put in my game tag. So instead of no, I didn't know, I put yes, because I didn't know.
And you can catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts: iTunes, Radio Public, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and Google Play. Be sure to tune in tomorrow and keep an eye on your podcast app, because Ron and I are going to do a mega cast with the Cubs Cards cast with Dan Curry and John Pearman. We're going to do a little pre-show as the Cubs and the Cardinals face off in River City. And of course, don't forget to avoid the team store on Zazzle. Ron.
Or avoid it and tell them of your disapproval of their practices. All right, gentlemen. Have a good night, Pete. We'll be talking in about what? Close to 12 hours. Right?
12 hours, yeah.
12 hours.
Elliot, sorry you can't make it, man.
Yeah.
But
selling the shoes tomorrow.
Elliot, I'm sorry, your hour is up. The session's going to have to end.
Yeah, you have to exit the session formally now. We're going to mute you.
Where's my music?
You don't get music. When you arrive late, you forfeit your musical exit. All right, guys.
All right.
We'll be at it again tomorrow, but we'll be back at the regular time next week. We love you all so much. We'll talk to you very soon. Bye. Son of a bitch. Hang on. Pete, don't come back on.
By the W.
Bye again.